up and clear all the decks. Tories or Labour, let them go green. Like country SNPR, primal screen, purple, blue, green, yellow, violet or red. No, just choose the rainbow of the joy and peace instead. Cameron and Osborne, oh, what a pair. Call a referendum such a good idea. Hello and handshake and they both jump ship, leaving the country and Europe in deep trouble. I don't know what the next verse is. Oh yeah, Boris and Farage, unlikely chumps, kept all in porkies until the deed was done. Boris plans backfired when Nigel's day had come. Even the expert couldn't believe that they had won. Tories or Labour, Red Dems or Greens, like Hungary and NDR, Bravo Steam, purple, blue, green, yellow, orange, yellow or red. Just choose the rainbow of the joy and peace instead.
And I'm joined today by Phil Gray, who's an independent candidate standing in the general election in Lincoln. Welcome to the office.
Lovely to be here, thank you.
So Phil, we'll start off by asking a simple one. Why should people in Lincoln vote for you on June the 8th, and why should voters take you seriously?
Well, that's a good one. I'm in the middle of trying to finish on my manifesto, which is going to be a little different from the ordinary manifesto that you're likely to see, and of course I'm a little different to the ordinary candidate that you'll see in an election. I wouldn't say I model myself after Screaming Lord Sutch of the Monster Raving Loony Party. However, I do take inspiration from him. Why should people vote for me on June the 8th? Well, I invite them to visit my Music Man Facebook page, visit my personal page, friend me if they like, and listen to and watch the uploads or read some of the material I've got up there, because if you read what I'm writing and what I'm saying, you will see that I am actually very serious. I've taken on the role of the wise fool. I mean, I haven't got it with me, but on my trump card, which is my 10 pledges, and that's up on my Facebook page already, so you can check that out, or if you watch any of my videos, it's on the end of one of them. It gives you the things that I won't do that most politicians do.
Have you got a few examples of
One is, I don't know if you'll be able to broadcast this, I won't fart and blame somebody else, the dog, the wife, anyone. In other words, and that's what it actually says on my Trump card. And there you'll see a nice little picture of Mr. Trump. And it's basically saying, I will take responsibility for the things I do. The last of them is, I won't lie to you. I will not lie to you. Because that's, if you like, it's a part of my DNA. It's not that I cannot lie. Of course I can lie. But if you find me lying, I'm going to say, yeah, you're right. I lied there. I'm very sorry. Let me get back on track. But the biggest reason I think that people should vote for me is, and you'll have seen my signs that say, end party politics. End party politics. I believe that our democracy, and Churchill said, democracy is the least worst, it's the worst system of government except for all the rest. So some people say the least worst form of government. But what we have over other countries is we do actually get a say, and we can actually have an influence over the people who govern us. And that's why it's important to exercise hard fought. But that you elect is a party. He or she will not be able to represent you in the way that either he or she might want to do, let alone the way that you want them to do, because they will be at the behest of their party.
So what's wrong with parties and the current system? What needs to change?
What's wrong with it? What's right with it? It's rife with corruption, open to corruption. Now, I'm a great admirer, I have to say, of Jeremy Corbyn, because I think he's a principled man. I think he is standing up for what he believes in. However, even he, as principled as he is, has been nobbled by his own party, hasn't he? He's got a whopping great mandate from the party that he's brought in, all the new members that he's got, and yet he doesn't believe in Trident. He personally would get rid of Trident. I personally will get rid of Trident.
So you feel
But
like,
he cannot, even as the leader of the party, have that as the policy.
so you feel like individuals can better represent them and their views rather than being tied down by
Absolutely, you've got it
opposing
in
views
one.
within one party.
Yeah, and further to that, I would say that a lot of the people that are standing to represent, they're genuine people, they're intelligent people, they're people who want to do their best for you, but the system stops them from doing that. And parties have, as we see here in this election, which is an election we did not need, in fact, is injurious to our country, at a time when Northern Ireland doesn't have an assembly, Scotland is saying they want another referendum, Wales obviously want what Scotland's got, and this is just an opportunity for the Union, the UK, which has served us very well for 200 years or more. Okay, you know, we have our differences and our problems, but it's putting strains on the Union that it may not survive. And so I think it's very important that people realise this is an election we should not have been having. If Theresa May is serious about getting the best deal for Britain in the Brexit negotiation, now I don't like that word Brexit, but anyway, she should be getting on with that.
So you
Not
believe
distracting
you
the
don't
country.
believe that we should be having a general election, but
Not at all.
but you're happy to stand in it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I expected a genuine election the minute that Cameron resigned. So we had the coronation of Mrs. May, and everything was hunky-dory. You know, she's got keep your enemies close to you. They say to keep your friends close and keep your enemies closer. So Boris Johnson was there as Foreign Secretary because he had massive support within the Conservative Party, and therefore for Theresa May to have any hope of controlling that rebellious lot, because they're just as bad as the Labour, but they're not stupid. They realise, well, let Labour shoot themselves in the foot, we'll keep mum, despite the fact we disagree with a lot of these things, and we'll clean up. We'll clean up at the election, which surely will come. And so here it is. And so I'm standing, yes, because I anticipated this election, and because, you know, I have this quote that rings around my head for many years, you know, all it takes for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. And I'm not prepared to stand by and watch my country, my children's country, my grandchildren's country, your children's country, you might have any children, you might not plan to have any children, but your relative's country go down the pan. What you can't predict are events. And we have an example of that just over the night. So what I'm telling you is the polls are narrowing. They will narrow further. Events will blow Mrs. May off course, and the Conservatives will not achieve the huge majority that they want.
Tell us a little bit more about yourself, your background and your political leanings.
Well, my political leanings would be Labour because, and I only say that, I've voted once in my entire life in a general election. Now, I have voted in local elections, and I'll tell you why the difference, it might seem to be inconsistent. I never voted in general elections because I don't believe in parties, and I don't believe that the political system is straight and true, and therefore I would not, in much the same way as I suppose Henry David Thoreau would say when he withheld his taxes, give my support to someone who is going to misuse it. In 1996, 97 I think it must have been that the election was called, we'd had, unexpectedly, because I've watched the political system and the political class very closely for many years. We had the election, we had John Major, who'd done a 5-year term in an election that nobody expected him to win. Sure. Everybody thought that Neil Kinnock was going to win, but they lost. So I was fed up to the back teeth with the Conservatives, and I then saw what Tony Blair was saying, saw what New Labour were proposing, education, 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 and thought, right, we must get rid of this Tory government, this Conservative government, and I actually campaigned for Gillian Merron and wrote some songs and was there for the victory party and played at that. So I was really keen, but I only stayed a member for about a year because the colours, the true colours of Mr. Blair began to make themselves evident, and it was politics as usual. So I handed in my cancelled my membership and have not voted in a general election again since. I'll be voting this time, and I'll be voting for myself.
Let's talk about issues in Lincoln and specifically from your perspective. Presumably from your time busking on the streets of Lincoln, you've seen some of the issues and spoken to some of the people who live here, visit here. What is your perception of, say, the political feel in the city right now?
Well, this is the first time, and it will be a surprise, I'm sure, to some people viewing this, that I have any political beliefs at all. Some may have suspected that I had religious beliefs because of some of the things that are on my board, not out and out kind of scriptural quotes or anything, but one person came up to me once and said, "Oh, love, joy and peace, are you a Christian?" And I said, "Well, not really." And I won't go in, because that's not your question, so I won't answer that. What are I don't actually say to people, "Oh, what's your political view?" or anything. And I would never bring that up. I just talk to people as people, because a political view or opinion is just a view and opinion. I'm much more interested in how many children they have, what school they went to, how they're feeling, those types of things. So I relate to people when I'm busking as individuals on the street, and I can see when people aren't so happy, and I can see when they are happy. And but my sense is that and it has been for quite a number of years, is that there's a lot of unhappiness.
Okay.
There is a lot of unhappiness, and that unhappiness is due to the duress under which many people live. In fact, we all live under quite a lot of duress, and that, I think, could be alleviated by the right kind of policy and the right kind of government.
And what kind of examples can you give of
well,
the types of struggles that people
I come into contact, obviously, with a lot of I say obviously, I think it is obvious, it's painfully obvious, with a lot of homeless people.
Sure.
Many homeless people, and it seems to have got worse in the last month or two. I know regulars who've been here for many years who are homeless, but I've seen over the time more people drift in. I saw a gentleman about 3 months ago, I think it was, or maybe only 2, and he was listening to me play. He was sitting on those benches on the High Bridge, which is just opposite Stoats, which is that lovely cafe, and he was just sitting there, and I thought to myself, well, he actually didn't look that dishevelled, but he just looked like he didn't have anywhere to go, and of course he didn't. Anyway, so I played and I played and I played, and then I finished, and he was still sitting there. Tens of people had come and gone from that bench, and I took out a bottle of Lucasade that I had in my bag, went to him, and I said, "Oh, where are you from? And where are you staying?" And he said, "Oh, I'm from Grimsby." And I could hardly understand him. He had a fairly thick accent. "Oh, Grimsby." I've taught out in Grimsby. I should mention I have been a teacher as well, both in Nottinghamshire, Lincolnshire, and Mansfield.
Background in education.
Yeah. So I said, "Oh, well, what are you doing here? What brings you to Lincoln?" Oh, he says, "I've just come out of prison." "Oh, right." I said, "What, Lincoln prison?" "Yeah, I've just come out of prison." He says, "Oh, well, haven't you got anywhere to stay?" He says, "Oh, well, not at the minute. I haven't got that sorted out. I've got to just get a bit of money and stuff." Anyway, so I gave him the bottle of Lucasade, and he had this big smile on his face. And I said to him, "Well, I hope it works out for you." And what I know, because I worked at Lincoln Prison for a short period of time, is 2 things. One, there's a lot of people who shouldn't really be in prison. 2, the prison, with the best will in the world, and I was there as an education officer, cannot achieve its purpose, which is to rehabilitate. And of course, now we've seen that things have got even worse since, this is 1999 when I worked in prison, and we're now in 2017. And we've had, we have had riots, but just recently we've had record numbers of deaths, and also, it was riots, wasn't it? Anyway, so the point I'm making is that I think the one of the things that we need to do, and a society, a civilized society, should be judged on how it takes care of its weakest members. And those coming out of prison are in a vulnerable state. And if we want to do something about recidivism, that is reoffending, then we need to take care of people. We need to take care of them when they're in prison. We need to make sure they don't go to prison when they don't need to go to prison. And we need to make sure that if they do need to go to prison and when they come out, that we integrate them positively back into society.
So you see the issues sort of with prisons being intrinsically linked with homelessness in Lincoln, and what solutions do you actually sort of propose to tackle that?
Here's one policy that I'd like to announce, because I may never get my manifesto out before the election day comes, and that is, one of the first things that the new tranche of MPs did in 2015 was to vote themselves a whopping great big pay rise. So they were on about £66,000 a year, and then they've got an independent body. How independent it is, I don't know, that said, oh, well, you know, you should, your salary, this is the basic MP mine, should be £74,000. So immediately then, from I think it was April 2015, they got a £7,000 virtually pay rise, backdated to the previous year. So my policy would be, if, as Mr. Cameron said, we're all in this together, when I get into Parliament, I will table a motion to reverse that increase, bring it back to what it was, 66,000. That way, we can cut the cost of government. And the House of Lords is another thing that I would do something about. Get rid of all of these sponges on the nation, and have an elected chamber of 100, like the Senates that we see around the world. There are great people in the House of Lords doing great work, but we don't want all of the ne'er-do-wells and sponges and people who've just been given political, you know, backslapping and stuff. We need to get rid of all of that, and we need to have a working democracy. We don't want to be spending £5 billion refurbishing the Palace of Westminster. We need a modern building for a modern government. We need to get rid of all these anachronistic, antiquated ways of doing things, flush out all of the lobbyists that are entrenched in that building, and get rid of all the bars. You know, I was in London after I left the church I was with, and I was there when they were building a passageway underneath the Thames to get to the 5 bars that they built for the MPs so that they could go and refresh themselves. 5. Are there no public houses in London that they could refresh themselves? Ridiculous.
So your argument, I suppose, I'm sure it'll be an attractive one to some, would be to make cuts within Parliament rather than within the public sector. And would you still be happy then to take the, as you've proposed, £66,000 salary as an MP?
I'll tell you what,
voted in?
It's quite clear that if I am elected as the representative for Lincoln, that as one person, and I received an email just last night from about 20 other independents who wanted to form an alliance in order to make sure that we didn't have make sure we didn't leave Europe. And I said, I can't do that because I'm standing on the platform of not being a part of a party. So I said, you know, in any way I have to cite different views. However, so there are other independents who know, and one even wrote and said, look, I agree with you wholeheartedly, I'm standing on the same platform. I think it was up in Glasgow somewhere, one of the seats up there. And I know that if I am elected, I will not be able as an individual to change that law. I can table the motion, but I cannot change the law. But what I can do is that £7,000 that I don't believe MPs or I should be receiving, that will go into our community. I will use that money to either set up something, because what we've got now for the homeless people isn't working. Yeah, I'm not saying they're not doing a good job, I'm saying it's not covering everything that we need. So I will use that £7,000 to do something about homelessness for our people in Lincoln. But further to that, I will also table a motion that once we've achieved the £65,000 reduction, we should go on, by at least the next Parliament, to reduce it further to being on par with the Scottish Parliament. They're only on 54,000, okay, 54,000. For most people who will be watching this, that is still a huge amount of money. It's a huge amount of money to me, yeah. But that's not why I'm standing for Parliament. But I think we should reduce it so that it's on a par throughout the country. And likewise, we can't do anything about Europe, but then we're leaving Europe. So that's not a problem, but they're overpaid as well.
Sure. Before we run out of time, you brought it up, Brexit, leaving Europe. It's obviously a burning issue on many Lincoln voters' minds. What's your take on Brexit? Where would you like to see future negotiations lead, and how did you vote?
I voted to remain. I voted to remain because I have children. I've worked with youths all my life. But not only that, I'm an internationalist. I travel. I love the ease of travel. I love Europe. I have friends who live in Spain. In fact, I have friends who live all over Europe because I met people from all over the world when I studied in America. So I voted to remain. It's not because I'm stupid and I don't see that Europe is a gravy train. I've been to Europe. I've been to the European Parliament. I know it's a gravy train, just like our Parliament over here. So do we imagine that that £350 billion, is it a week, that we will be getting back is going to go into the NHS? Well, of course, everybody knows that. It's not going to happen now. There are too many pots that need to be filled. A lot of that money will go to think tanks, lobbyists, people who want to have influence, and indeed do have influence on the government by virtue of the fact that they fund the parties that form the governments, whether it be the unions or big business or private individuals. So my take on Brexit is this. The negotiations should be going on now, not this megaphone diplomacy or attitude.
So you voted Remain, but you would like to see it now seen through?
Lincoln, I believe, voted about 70%, or was it 60% to leave?
People overwhelmingly, voted for Brexit. So
they want to leave. So look, I have no problem with this. An MP is a representative of his constituency. For many years, I was a minister, in a church, a minister of religion. I might have my own particular or personal views about things, and then there were doctrines within the church. Okay, I couldn't, as a minister of that church, give my own views because I was a representative of that church. So when my views diverged with that church, I left that church because I could no longer represent them. So I am standing to say, you have voted for Brexit, let us get the best separation that we can get.